people, LP2000, I'm back at you with another video. Yes, welcome back to Legend Chambers Kaiju Reviews on behalf of Summit Kaiju and on behalf of Collect Doll Monsters. And yeah, oh my God, he is awesome. Yes, he is. Ladies and gentlemen, we are finally here. He is finally here among us. The first ever non-Godzilla character to make his illustrious debut in the awesome and illustrious X Plus Gigantic series. So without further ado, let's dive head first in this awesome figure review. Yes, yes, yes. And today we're taking a look at the X Plus Gigantic series, Rick exclusive edition of the 1974 Mechagodzilla, based on his iconic appearance in his iconic debut film, 1974's Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Woo! Oh my God, he is awesome. And as you can see, I'm kind of overly animated today. Oh my God, and this guy will make you overly animated. Man, this thing is amazing. Let me just say this right now. Let me get this out the way. Of course, I go into depth later on into the review. But let me just say this right now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the best Mechagodzilla figure ever produced from X Plus. And I know that's high praise since you got other quality Mechagodzilla figures from X Plus out there. The 30cm 74, the 30cm 75, Kiryu, the Heisei Mechagodzilla. But this one right here tops them all. Yes, yes, yes. From the sculpt, paint app, yes, even the Rick exclusive edition of or feature that comes with this figure. This, in my opinion, without a shadow of a doubt, is the best X Plus figure of Mechagodzilla that you will ever find. So now, you know I'm gonna do things around here. Let's get up close and personal with the box. And this is the box, yes, 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 with the silhouette of the awesome figure, Mechagodzilla. You know the Japanese text of his name, Mechagodzilla 1974. Of course, Gigantic series above that. And of course, the yellow starburst sticker signifying that this is a Rick, yes, yes, yes. Of course, the Rick comes up with light up features, light up eyes, and a light up chest lightning thing in his chest. You know what I'm talking about. The standard just comes with just Mechagodzilla. Either way, if you are locked in to get this figure, or if you already got this figure, you already know this guy is the truth. And then some. Yes, yes, yes. So I'm gonna keep the box here for presentation purposes. This is an awesome box. As you can see here, it's a tall box, just like Mechagodzilla is tall, but the box is not as bulky and big as like maybe the 89 or the, especially the Shin or the 2019 Gigantic Series figures. You know what I'm saying? Which played into the shipping of this guy. More on that in a few seconds. But yeah, this is such an awesome picture. Awesome silhouette of Mechagodzilla. Yes, yes, yes. So before we go into backstory, let me give a huge shout out and thank you to 4 special people making this review happen for me. First and foremost, Mike Johnson. I want to thank Mike Johnson for helping me get this figure. Jason Welling from AwesomeCollector.com. Thank you. It was a collaboration between Mike and Jason that I was able to get this figure sooner rather than later. I'll explain more about that later on too. But thank you to Mike Johnson. Thank you to Jason Welling. Of course, thank you to my great friend out in Colorado, Jeremy Souls. You know, we all know who Jeremy Souls is. My Summit Kaiju brethren, the brainchild behind Summit Kaiju. He also works for S Plus. And I know he was highly advocating for this figure to come out. And he was highly advocating for anything Mechagodzilla to come out, quite frankly. But I know he was really hands-on with this release. And I know he's happy. I know he got his like around a couple weeks ago. So I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to him. And of course, last and certainly but not least, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to G. Okamoto from X Plus. Yes, thank you, sir, for making this happen for me and for all of us who have locked in to get this guy. Oh my God, he has surpassed all my expectations. He is amazing. So thank you to Mike Johnson, thank you to Jason Welling, thank you to Jeremy Souls, and thank you to G. Okamoto for making this happen. Now, here is the backstory to the X Plus Gigantic series Mechagodzilla, and it's kind of a long one too. I referenced this video or this interview that my great friend from Collect Doll Monsters, our fearless leader Kyle Yount, back in 2018, early 2018, he went to Japan on a business trip, and while he was there, he was able to conduct an interview with G. Okamoto from X Plus, and he was asking a whole bunch of questions that he was able to gather from the members of the X Plus Collectors Facebook group. And when it came to the subject of the Gigantic series, he was asked, you know, are there any plans to make non-Godzilla characters in the Gigantic series? And he did say that he wanted to make a Showa version of Mechagodzilla and another cyborg that I will talk about later. So that was like really the first seed planet that we were at some point see a Mechagodzilla make his debut in the Gigantic series, you know. So that was the first red flag. Later on, I want to say later on that year at Summer Wonder Festival in Japan, we were hit with 2 gigantic announcements at the same time, which was awesome. We got word and we saw prototype pictures of a prototype version of the 1989 Godzilla Gigantic that just came out, I want to say last year. Yeah, last year. And we got a prototype clay version of the Showa Mechagodzilla. So that was confirmation that the Mechagodzilla was coming, which made me and a lot of other folks happy, you know what I'm saying? The fact that they announced one Gigantic Series figure was great. But to announce another one, and this being a non-Godzilla one, a straight up villain, oh my God, it made a lot of folks happy. So, let me start off saying May 2019 was when we got the release of the X Plus Gigantic Series 1989 Godzilla. And we assumed that after that came out, we were saying Mechagodzilla has got to be the next one coming out from the Gigantic series. He has got to be the next one. And he made his debut, even though he was in pink clay form at Summer Wonder Festival in 2018. He didn't show up at New York Comic Con until a year later, but he was an all-white version. He wasn't a painted up version, you see what I'm saying? We would see a painted up version at this year's Wonderfest 2020. However, they decided to bring forth the 2019 Godzilla as a Gigantic, and to coincide with the release of the film last year, Godzilla King of the Monsters. So after we thought the 89 was coming, and we thought for sure Mechagodzilla was coming after him, they kind of like switched gears and decided to bring out the 2019 first, which I have to say, I have to be honest, it really didn't make me a whole lot of happy, because I was really looking forward to get Mechagodzilla more so than the 2019. Even though I got the 2019 Gigantic and it's an awesome figure, with me being a Showa guy and me loving Mechagodzilla, at least the Showa one as much as I do, I wanted Mechagodzilla to come first. But that's not what happened. And it was a smart business move to bring out the 2019 to coincide with the popularity of the film and the buzz, and everybody was just having a good time and loving the film and all that good stuff. So it made good business sense to bring out the 2019 first. But like I said just now, this year, 2020, at Winter Wonder Festival, they finally showcased the Showa Gigantic Series Mechagodzilla 1974 painted in all his glory, and pre-orders were announced not too long after Winter Wonder Festival, and he's just getting to collectors' hands as we speak, late June 2020 going into July. He was originally going to drop in May, but because of what's going on in the world right now with the pandemic, there have been significant delays with a lot of these figures coming out of Japan or overseas or whatever. Now, when it comes to shipping, that's the thing. If you order it through Hobby Search, and it's the thing, this box being so small, probably one of the, aside from the Gigantic Series 2000 Godzilla box figure box I should say, this is probably the smallest box of the Gigantic series. Like I said, aside from the 2000, right? So the shipping for this thing was not really bad at all. From Hobby Search with EMS shipping would have been like $75, $80 to $100 maybe. But unfortunately, at the time of this recording, EMS has shut down with all flights, so at least anything EMS being coming to the United States, at least on a consistent basis. Now, when the pandemic shut everything down like March or April, there were a lot of packages that were stuck in limbo over there. So since things are slowly getting back to normal and more flights, at least slowly more flights are coming back into fruition, coming back into the United States from Japan, EMS is really slow at this point. So Hobby Search was like, look, you can either pay for the figure and we'll ship your EMS whenever EMS reopens again. And then at this point, we don't know when that's going to happen. Or they presented an option of you going with DHL. And DHL is a lot more expensive. It is a lot more expensive than your average EMS. Now, the way I look at it is this. I went through Mike Johnson and he went through Awesome Collector. And I think what Awesome Collector did, they shipped a whole bunch of these via FedEx in bulk. And once they got to the United States, he just delivered them to those who ordered through him. I think that's how they're doing it. But if you want to go the DHL route, then once again, it's a little bit expensive, but at the same time, you get what you pay for. Fast service. If you recall my last video, the X Plus King Ghidorah 1964 Rick figure, I don't know if I mentioned in that video, but that was shipped through DHL. And I paid for the figure on a Tuesday, and I got the figure on a Thursday. From Japan to North Carolina in just 2 days. So yes, it's expensive, but you get great service on top of that. So it just depends on which way you want to go. In my opinion, if you have the money to do it, I say do it, because this guy is worth it. My rationale for me going, if I were to go the DHL route, is the fact that I'm not really currently collecting a lot as I would normally do. In addition to me getting the new pre-order stuff from Japan, normally I would go on eBay and get past stuff that I may have missed along the way. But since I'm not doing that right now, I don't mind paying a little bit extra for shipping to get a figure sooner rather than later, because with EMS shut down, and if you use a lesser shipping method, you run the risk of your figure or your package getting lost. So in my opinion, if you can afford it, then go for it, because trust me, it is well worth the money and well worth the investment. So that's the long-winded backstory of the X Plus Gigantic Series Mechagodzilla. Once again, this guy is amazing. He is awesome. He is all that and a bag of chips. And in my opinion, he is the best Mechagodzilla figure that X Plus has ever produced. Is he the figure of the year? I'm gonna have to answer that question later on in the video, because right now, at the time of recording, in my opinion, the Yuji Sakai 1984 Godzilla is the figure of the year. Does the X Plus Gigantic Series Mechagodzilla trump that? I don't know. Stay tuned to the end of the video, and I will answer that question. But you know how we do things around here. I got into the backstory, I got into the box, I got into all that good stuff. So let's get up close and personal with this guy, and I'll provide answers as we go along here. Okay, folks, here we go, up close and personal with the X Plus Gigantic Series, Rig exclusive edition of the 1974 Mechagodzilla. Once again, such an awesome figure from head to toe, such a spectacular release. Size-wise, he is a big one as far as like height, you see what I'm saying? He may not be as bulky as Shin or the 62 or 2019, but he makes up for it in height, and he runs neck and neck with the 89 as far as being the tallest of the Gigantics. The 89 runs at almost 20, at least 20 inches tall, where Mechagodzilla here runs at like 19 and a quarter. So the 89 got him just by a little bit, but still, it's a tall Gigantic, and I'm really enjoying that. But the kit builder that made this sculpt, Kibitsuya, they're the kit builders that actually did a good majority of the Gigantic series, like the Gigantic GMK. That was actually a kit made by Kibitsuya, but X Plus augmented that. They changed the head sculpt around a little bit, or changed the neck and the head sculpt, and made their own X Plus Gigantic Series GMK figure out of the 95, the Gigantic Burning Godzilla. That was originally a kit from Kibitsuya that X Plus, made into a figure, a vinyl figure of the 95 Desagoji. They made a brand new sculpt of the 62, Shin, 89, 2019, and the 64, as well as Mechagodzilla here. The only ones they didn't do were the 54 and the 1999/2000, because those were actually Yuji Sakai sculpts. But once again, they have done a phenomenal job with the sculpt of Mechagodzilla here. And just like X Plus, what we love about X Plus is the fact that they go for suit realism versus monster, or in this case, robotic kaiju realism. And the main selling point for that is, like, if you look at Mechagodzilla's hands here, or his wrist here, you can tell that is folded a little bit or bent or whatever, and that's basically to replicate the foam rubber of the Mechagodzilla suit. You see what I'm saying? And this is not the only Gigantic where they have taken certain little nods to, show that these monsters were actually men in suits. You had, like I said here, with the wrist of Mechagodzilla being bent or folded a little bit, or the bagginess of the 62 Gigantic Godzilla. You see what I'm saying? The way Godzilla's arms are positioned on the 89 or whatever. So there are certain things that they incorporate into their sculpts to go for the suit realism, which makes a lot of X Plus collectors happy, me included. But from head to tail, from head to toe, they have done a great job with this Mechagodzilla Gigantic series. And as I said earlier, this is the best one they have ever done. The sculpt wise, paint wise, whatever. I did not expect the paint job to be as detailed as it is. And actually, he runs more on the darker side. In a way, he probably could pass for the 75. Because between the two Mechagodzilla suits, 74 and 75, 74 had a more lighter, polished look, whatever. The 75 had more of a battle damage, and the metal was darker in certain respects on the suit. So the paint apps on this guy actually kind of resemble more the 75, even though this is the 74 Mechagodzilla. You see what I'm saying? But the toe missiles, the knee missiles, the accordion-like connections between the thighs and his pelvis and his arms and his chest here, done really, really, really well. Like I said, the darker shading on the accordion type appendages is done really well. The rivets, the multiple rivets all over Mechagodzilla, you know, the big bolts on his legs, the bolts on his finger missiles, the bolts on his tail, the bolts on his face here. They have done a great job. Really have done a great job. His symbol, MG symbol on both his arms, done really well. The dorsal plates, once again, one of the selling points of this figure is the fact that it got the dorsal plates right. And once again, the fact that he is very, very slim and he's not really bulky as, like I said, the 62, the Shin, 2019 or whatever. He is, even though he's tall, he's a big figure, mind you, but he's better to place on your shelf than the 89, then the Shin, then the 2019, then the 62. Even though the 62 and 64 are, their tails are curved, you know, whatever. So they don't house as much space as Shin in 2019, but Mechagodzilla even houses less space. So I'm sure you're able to find some room for this gigantic once you get him in your hands. But yeah, this is such a great, 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 great figure. Now, it does come with a tail stand. I have seen folks really get all bent out of shape about that. And once again, I don't really see an issue with the tail stands. You see what I'm saying? Now, with my Mechagodzilla here, he actually stands without the tail stand. You know what I'm saying? But not every Mechagodzilla gigantic or figure in general is going to be made the same. So maybe some may be different where the tail is resting on the tail stand or whatever. I always say it's better to have it and not need it versus need it and not have it, because if your figure comes in warped or whatever, and it may need the tail stand for him to stand up properly. But there's a little space between the tail and the tail stand. But like I said, I'd rather have it and not need it versus need it and not have it. And also, an added bonus, this is the first ever gigantic series figure from X Plus, maybe aside from the Dragon Ball Z stuff. I'm not really familiar with Dragon Ball Z, and especially the Megazord that I have. That Megazord comes with articulation, excuse me. Mechagodzilla is the first ever Godzilla character, or tokusatsu character, aside from the Megazord, that does come with articulation. And I have seen folks really be happy that the figure came with articulation, because at first we didn't know that the figure comes with articulation. You can move his arms, you can move his legs a little bit, you can turn his head all the way around, you can move his hands, his finger missiles, you know, whatever. So it's great that it comes with articulation. Me personally, I didn't care whether the figure came with articulation or not. I was just more so happy that we were finally getting Mechagodzilla, something different than Godzilla himself, in the gigantic series. So even though people were really hoping for articulation but didn't get any kind of clarification that was actually going to happen, and people were kind of upset about that, but then all that went away once they found out that the articulation does come with this figure. For me, I didn't care going in that the figure had articulation or not. Me getting Mechagodzilla was more than enough for me to be excited about this release. And now that I know that it does come with articulation, even though I may not tinker with it all that much or change the pose all that much, I'm glad that it does come with it. It's like an added bonus I wasn't really expecting, which makes the release that much more desirable. But the paint apps, like I said, the sculpt is amazing. Once again, the bends and folds in the wrist here, signifying the bends and folds of what would have been on the actual suit in the film. This is such an awesome release. Once again, the best Mechagodzilla they have ever done, sculpt-wise, paint app-wise, excuse me. For the longest time, the 3rd centimeter 1975 Mechagodzilla was my favorite one out of all the ones I ever have in my collection. But this one blows it completely out of the water. It is awesome on so many different levels, and I just can't speak enough praises about this figure. Now, the one drawback or nitpick I have about this figure is really when it really involves the Rick option. Now, once again, this does come with the light up, and I'm glad it came with the light up, even though some fans were hoping that it would come like with the Rick Mini Extra, you know, something that coincides with the film that come with Mechagodzilla. But overlooking the fact that this is the first ever light up to be placed on a gigantic, or to come with a gigantic, excuse me. Now, the only issue I have with the light up, because it's two, his eyes light up as well as his light chestnut port beam in his chest, that lights up. That lights up red, the chest beam thing I'm talking about, and his eyes light up yellow. Now, when you saw the promotional pictures on the Rick side of the actual of the figure lit up with the eyes and everything, the promotional pictures made it look like it was actually like it was in the film, where it's more of an orange, amber type of glow in his eyes when you activate the light up feature. But unfortunately, when you get the actual figure, maybe it's just mine, I don't know. But actually, when you light up the eyes, I don't know what LED light they use behind the lenses of the eyes, but it oversaturates the lens where the eyeballs come off more yellowish white, which is not how it was in the film, and it's not how it was on the promotional pictures. So if there was one drawback that I would say I wish could have been done just a little bit better, it's really the light up eyes. But that's because it's a Rick. Now, if this was just a standard, I would say this is a flat out 10 out of 10. But because the eyes on the Rick are not really the color that I would like it to be, or at least the color that's on the actual promotional pictures of the figure, as well as what we saw in the film, that's the only thing that makes it from being a perfect 10. But aside from that, the sculpt, the paint app from head to toe, the fact that it doesn't take up much space, the fact that it is a really, really tall, gigantic, run neck and neck with the 89. Oh my God, if you're locked in for a pre-order, whether it's the Rick Boy or the standard, you will not be disappointed with this guy right here. Yes, yes, yes. The X Plus Gigantic Series, Rick Exclusive Edition or Standard Edition of the 1974 Mechagodzilla. Woo! I'm so loving this figure. I really am. This is such an amazing piece. Wow. An awesome piece. Like I said, I can't speak enough praises about it. So that's pretty much it as far as like being up close and personal with this guy. It's an amazing figure from head to tail, or head to toe I should say. Just an awesome evil alien war machine that has come down to destroy the earth and kill Godzilla in the process. You can't go no wrong with the X Plus Gigantic Series 1974 Mechagodzilla. So let's go with a couple of size comparisons, and I'll wrap up this review with my final thoughts of the X Plus Gigantic Series Mechagodzilla 1974 Rick Exclusive Edition. So let's go with the first size comparison right now. Okay, folks, this is the first size comparison, and I decided to bring up some other Mechagodzilla figures I have in my collection. Of course, we have the big guy in the back, the Man in the Hour, the Gigantic Series version. Of course, right there to the left, we have the Rick Exclusive Edition of the 1993 Heisei Mechagodzilla. In the front right there, we have the 1975 Mechagodzilla. Both 30cm figures, by the way. And of course, to the right, we have the 2003 Mechagodzilla, also known as Kiryu. And as you can see, the evolution of Mechagodzilla, 74, 75, 93, and of course 2003. And X Plus has not made the awesome anime version. And thank God for that. Oh my God, don't get me started about the anime version of Mechagodzilla. But yeah, these are great figures, and they're all Ricks. They're all Rick Exclusive Editions of Mechagodzilla. Pretty much all the Mechagodzillas I have in my collection are Ricks, with the exception of the 30cm 74. That's a standard. But every single figure here, as you see, are actually Ricks. They all come with light up features. And as I mentioned earlier, with the light up feature with the Gigantic, I just wish that the eyes would have been more true to the suit, or true to the promotional pictures. So really, the only one that, in my opinion, the S Plus has ever done that does come close to the actual suit, as far as like light up eyes, is actually the 75. The one that the Gigantic beat out, ironically. But yeah, if you look at the light up feature on that figure, the eyes light up a little bit more orange amber, just like it was on the film, on the suit or whatever. If I could trade off one thing with the 75 30cm with the Gigantic, and I wish the Gigantic would have had more orange amber type lights in his eyes. But either way, this is only a small drawback, and it doesn't take away from the fact that this figure is awesome on so many different levels. Once again, the evolution of Mechagodzilla, the awesome ones, because we ain't talking about the crappy anime. Alright, that's it with the first size comparison. You know what? Since this is about the X Plus Gigantic Series figure, let's bring up another Gigantic to see how he sizes up with him. You see what I'm saying? And I mentioned him earlier, so you know what? I'm going to bring up the 1989 Godzilla. Quite ironic since they're the ones that had their debut announcements made at the same time. So let's go with the last size comparison with the X Plus Gigantic Series Mechagodzilla going up against the X Plus Gigantic Series 1989 Godzilla. So let's go with that last size comparison right now. Okay, folks, this is the last size comparison, and yeah, it's the battle of the tallest gigantics of the X Plus Gigantic Series. And yes, alongside the Man of the Hour, the Mechagodzilla 1974 Week Exclusive Edition Gigantic Series figure, I have the 1989 Godzilla Gigantic Series figure from X Plus. And as you can see, they look so well together. And as I mentioned earlier, they are neck and neck, but the 89 does topple the Mechagodzilla just a little bit. Not much. Yeah, I think the dorsal plates on top of his head gives him more, maybe like a 1/4 of an inch height advantage over Mechagodzilla. But Mechagodzilla is right there with him. He's taller than the 2019. He's taller than Shin, you know, whatever. So it's nice that, once again, when it comes to these Gigantic Series figures, they're really living up to the name, Gigantic Series. And this is awesome. The first time we saw these two magnificent beasts together, or these vinyl beasts together, I should say, was back in 2018, as I mentioned earlier. Summer Wonder Festival back in Japan, where we got not one but two blockbuster Gigantic Series announcements. The 89, and of course, Mechagodzilla. And here we are 2 years later, and they're finally here among us. And yes, basically, when it comes to Gio Komodo, whatever he says, you know it's going to happen at some point. It may take some time to get stuff done, but if he says it, it's going to happen. And here we are, after seeing these two together for the first time in 2018. Here we are 2 years later, and they're finally here once again, delivering on a promise that X Plus gave to us a long time ago. And that's one of the main reasons why I am a loyal X Plus supporter to this day, because we have asked, we have requested, we have advocated to see these two in the Gigantic Series, and X Plus more than delivers. So that's pretty much it with all the size comparisons that I want to showcase here in this video. Don't want to drown the figure review in size comparisons. But once again, the Mechagodzilla 1974 Gigantic Series Week Exclusive Edition, such an awesome piece. So let's go with my final thoughts of this figure right now. So let's go with the final commentary portion of the video. Excuse me. Let's go to that portion of the video right now. Okay, folks, I'm back with my final thoughts of the X Plus Gigantic Series Mechagodzilla 1974 Week Exclusive Edition. Once again, such an awesome figure. Yes, it is. It is an amazing piece, spectacular piece. You know, it took a long time to get here. The road was bending and winding and delay after delay, then putting the 2019 in front of this release, you know, whatever. But all that was worth it. The wait was worth it. He is worth the wait. And I'm glad he's finally here among us. Such a stunning piece. It really is. Even though with the drawback, as I said earlier, with the Rick exclusive option of his eyes not really being the color that I would like it to be, or at least the color that's on the promotional pictures as well as on the actual suit in the film. They're a little bit too bright, you know, whatever. But aside from that, this is an amazing piece. Once again, the best Mechagodzilla figure that X Plus has ever done. It really is an amazing piece. Now, for those who are waiting to get theirs, now, as I mentioned earlier with the whole DHL situation, now, of course, we all know that EMS at the time of this recording is shut down right now. So if you order yours through Hobby Search, or you're just waiting to get yours shipped through EMS shipping, in my opinion, if you have the money to, you know, pay for the extra expensive shipping, I say go for it. Even if you have a whole bunch of pre-orders, you know, waiting to get paid for, you know, in Japan, you know, whatever. Of course, I don't suggest doing DHL with every single one of them, because sometimes the shipping for DHL is more expensive than the figure itself. But I would say, if you're going to make an exception for one of those figures you got on pre-order, if the Gigantic Series Mechagodzilla is on that list, make him the lone exception. That way you get him sooner rather than later, because he is well worth that. You see what I'm saying? And with DHL, like I said, you can get it in less than 2 to 3 days. And that's amazing. To get a package from Japan to the United States. I live in North Carolina, and as I mentioned earlier with my King Ghidorah, I paid for it on a Tuesday. It got shipped that day, and I got it 2 days later on that Thursday. But like I said, I don't expect y'all to do that for every single pre-order you have currently. But if you're able to do it and you got a little extra money set aside to maybe pay for the more expensive, but yet faster shipping, make the X Plus Gigantic Series Mechagodzilla 1974 the lone exception. You would not be disappointed. Once again, this is such a great piece. And as I mentioned earlier, aside from this piece being such an amazing addition to the illustrious Gigantic Series, courtesy of X Plus, the fact this is such an awesome piece to have. If you're a Mechagodzilla fan, this is the ultimate Mechagodzilla figure for you. But this opens the door for other non-Godzilla characters to come into the Gigantic Series, and so far this has been a success. I know there's been a couple of reports of maybe a couple of figures maybe a little bit slightly damaged. Like I remember seeing one report that there's like a crack in his eyebrows here or something like that. But by and large, all the reports I've seen about this figure has been nothing but high praise, great praise, you know, whatever. So I would say by and large this has been a success. And I mentioned it earlier when it came to G, talking about what other monsters we could see in the Gigantic Series besides Godzilla. He did mention Mechagodzilla. He also mentioned another cyborg, and this cyborg also comes from the 70s, and he appeared 2 years earlier than Mechagodzilla himself. I'm talking about the one and the only space cyborg chicken, Gigan. Yes, he announced, or at least he teased, that they are working on a Gigantic Series 1972 Gigan. So hopefully Gigan will be the next one to come from the Gigantic Series that they can do aside from Godzilla himself. And don't stop there. There are other characters that, you know, you can benefit from them being more of a humanoid type of character to release in the Gigantic Series, and it won't be super expensive like Shin or 2019 or whatever. How about a Gigantic Series Damagen or Gigantic Series Gargantuous? Or how about a Gigantic Series Monsterverse King Kong? How about a Gigantic Series Jet Jaguar? There's so many things that they could do aside from, you know, going back to another Godzilla design, which I hope they will, quite frankly. But there's so many other characters they can do to give it more of a variety. And speaking of Godzilla, I think the next Godzilla Gigantic Series figure that they should do, give this guy his rival. Give him his great rival. Of course, King Caesar Gigantic would be good too. But I'm talking about the 1974 Godzilla. And you know what? I think he will be the next Gigantic Series figure coming from the Gigantic Series, of Godzilla himself. It makes perfect sense to get a Gigantic Series Godzilla 1974 figure to go up against Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla's release here almost basically confirms that at some point we will get a 1974 Godzilla in a Gigantic Series figure, because we pretty much gotten all the Godzillas in the Gigantic Series are either villains, anti-heroes, or whatever. The one that's technically a hero or a good guy Godzilla is the 2019. But you know what? Why not give us the superhero, goofy, saving the earth Godzilla that we all grew up loving and watching when we were kids? And the best one I can think of, his rival, the 1974 Godzilla. Give that to us in the Gigantic Series, and you will make a lot of people happy, as they are really happy right now with Mechagodzilla 1974. Yes. So that pretty much concludes my review of the X Plus Gigantic Series Mechagodzilla 1974 Rick Exclusive Edition, based on his iconic appearance in his iconic debut film from 1974, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Yes. You have any questions, hop me down in the comment section. Hit me on Facebook via Leslie P. Chambers. We'll definitely go from there. Yes, once again, great figure. X Plus, I give you a round of applause for making this happen for us. Jeremy Souls, Mike Johnson, Jason Well, and of course, Gio Komodo. Thank you so much for making this happen. I am so happy with this release. And there's one question I have to answer before we go, and I mentioned this earlier. In my opinion, does the Mechagodzilla 1974 Gigantic trump the Sakai 84 as far as like being the figure of the year right now? Because as it stands right now, before he came out, I looked to the Sakai 84 as the figure of the year. The best one, the best release they have ever done. I have to say, unfortunately, even though it's my favorite Sakai out of the bunch, Mechagodzilla just trumped it. So far, in my opinion, the figure of the year, the X Plus Gigantic Series Mechagodzilla 1974. Will he still be the figure of the year by the time we get more stuff coming out, like ours, the favorite sculptors line, Gamera, the 25 centimeter 2019 Godzilla? They may issue, the gigantic Fire 2019 Godzilla. Will Mechagodzilla be the figure of the year when everything is all said and done by the end of the year? Only time will tell, but trust me, he is definitely in the conversation of figure of the year, and in my opinion, he is, as it stands right now, the figure of the year. If you got this guy on pre-order, on lock, whether it's the standard or the Rick exclusive edition, whatever, if you are in line to get your hands on the newest and the most awesome edition of the X Plus Gigantic series, Mechagodzilla 1974, you are in great hands. Trust me when I say that. Sorry for being such a lengthy review, but I'm so excited to finally have this guy in my collection. Check out my fellow Godzilla YouTuber AJ Russo, Kaiju Live. He did actually a live review of this figure around a couple weeks ago. It's on his channel. There are a couple other figure reviews out there of this release, and pretty much all of them have pretty much said the same thing, giving it glowing praise because it deserves exactly that. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I give it to you the newest addition to the X Plus Gigantic series, the exclusive edition of the 1974 Mechagodzilla. Yes, yes, yes. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Now I'll see y'all again on that Figure Move review. All right? Y'all take it easy.